Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys for joining and taking time out of your evening to learn about college recruiting. I know this is, a lot of you guys are starting the process. We have some people in the middle. We probably have some people who are just thinking about it for the first time. And I think that there's going to be information for people in all of those categories tonight. So some of this you may have heard before if you're in the midst of your process. If you're just starting out, it's probably going to be a lot of new information. And our goal is here tonight is to really talk about how to start the process and some tips along the way for the materials and things that you'll need. And before we fully kick off, I want to introduce Kelsey Armstrong, who's waving at the camera. Yeah, Kelsey joined us a couple of months ago before we started the season. I won't go into too much detail on her background because it's like way too impressive and I could talk for 5 minutes. But she played volleyball at Western New England and she was an all-conference outside hitter. In addition to that, she's coached in the club volleyball world and also for the University of Hartford. So she has experience as a college athlete and as a coach. She also now works at Sacred Heart University as a student athlete liaison. So working directly with coaches, athletes, admissions, compliance. I'm probably forget professors, right? We were talking about everyone that you work with. So she knows the ins and outs of what it's really like to be a college athlete. And Kelsey's role at Northeast this year, now we saw that we have this need to, we have more recruitable athletes than ever, and a lot of young athletes coming up who are on the call right now who I think can absolutely play in college and play at the next level. And Kelsey is going to be supporting me and really be your main point of contact through the process in terms of, reviewing highlight videos, setting up meetings, sending follow-ups, taking notes on all the calls. She helps keep me organized, which is a godsend. So a lot of you have already been in contact with her, and she's already helped with streamline the process for us as we help you guys go through the college recruiting process. So welcome to the team, Kels.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so here's just a couple things we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the timeline, which is not set in stone. It's going to be different for each of you, but there are some key markers that we want to talk about. Materials, we'll spend a lot of time on that. So the things that you need to get started in the process, what you can do, what you need to do before you start really reaching out and diving into the process. We'll talk about how best to interact with Kelsey and I, and to how we can help you through this process through one-on-one meetings, and then we will have some Q&A at the end. As we go through this, though, if you guys have questions that are relevant to or not that relevant to what we're talking about, feel free to ask them in the chat. We may stop and answer a few of them, or we may get to them at the end. And at the end, you can either type your questions into the chat or unmute yourself if you're brave and ask the question live, just like on AMP. I know you girls can all do that. Do it every week. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our recruiting philosophy before we get fully into it. So we wanted to add college recruiting. We added this last year as a service that is free to all of our club athletes, boys and girls club and open and regional. And we are going to provide both general guidance, so things like this meeting, things like our recruiting guide, as well as specific and one-on-one services, including one-on-one meetings and being an advocate on your behalf through the college recruiting process. One really important point is that our goal is to guide our athletes through the recruiting journey, not to do the work for them. I'm going to say that again. We are your guides, and it is a lot of work to get recruited. We will provide a lot of expertise. We will provide feedback, and we want to make it a positive experience for you. But it's going to be really important that the athletes put in the work, and we will, talk more about that. But my main takeaway in terms of, working with Kelsey and I, the more you guys do, the more we can do for you. Really kind of get out what you put in, kind of deal with us. And lastly, this is specifically for the athletes. I want to make sure you guys know this. The most important thing you can do to help your college recruiting process, especially if you're a freshman or sophomore right now, is to get better every day on the courts and in the weight room. If you're getting 1% better every day, by the time you're a junior, this is going to be a much easier process and a lot of doors will open for you. And I think that's it there. I'm going to kick it over to Kelsey.
Yeah, so here are some stats directly from the NCAA's website that are pretty staggering. I'm not going to read through them all. Girls' stats are on the left, boys' stats are on the right. 3.9% of athletes, of high school athletes, go on to play in college. 1.2% at the Division I level, even less at the Division II level, and then 1.6% at Division III. This is a low percentage, obviously, and I think it just goes to show that this process is competitive. It requires a lot of work. Just like you work hard at your schoolwork and your gameplay and your mental game, this is going to require some work too if this is a part of, one of your goals. So, and I think it also highlights that it really is a privilege to, continue on and play at the NCAA level or club volleyball level for that matter. And it really is a privilege. So we're going to go over some myths and misconceptions here. First one being, I shouldn't reach out to Division I and Division II schools until after June 15th. You can definitely reach out to any school right now. Division I and Division II schools are not allowed to reach out to you right now, but you can email them highlight film, your volleyball resume, any of your content, introducing yourself, and they can respond back saying thank you. They might give you a recruiting questionnaire to collect some of your contact information. If they do respond to you, definitely email them back and fill out that questionnaire. But you should definitely be reaching out to Division I, Division II, and Division III schools as well. The next misconception is that college coaches will find you if you're a good player. The reality is, in most cases, you're going to be reaching out to coaches and putting yourself on their radar. It might even take multiple emails to get on their radar, right? Maybe they want to see some growth in your gameplay. Maybe they want to see some persistence and really show that you're interested in that school specifically. Recruits always have full rides. Big misconception, right? At the Division I level, typically you either do have a full ride or you're a walk-on player and you don't receive any aid. At Division II, you can receive athletic aid and they can combo it. So maybe they give you 20% athletic scholarship and you receive a merit scholarship as well, which ends up being maybe a full ride. And then Division III, you're not allowed to receive scholarship money. If I get an email from a college coach, I'm being recruited by them. This next myth is really tough, right? College coaches are emailing hundreds of athletes after tournaments. So you might receive an email from them, which means they're interested. That's great. But you have to make that relationship personal. And as the relationship continues on, you want to make sure that you're on the same page moving forward. Next one, it's the college coach's job to find and recruit me, right? College coaches want to see you invested in the process and really committed to play at the next level. So it's not just on the coach to recruit you. It's going to require a lot of work from you, reaching out to them, providing them with film and things of that nature. Next one, my high school or club coach will get me recruited to play in college. As Kat mentioned, we're here to assist you and advocate for you. And talk you up to these coaches, but we're not getting you recruited to play in college, right? We're here to help and aid and definitely assist you through that process and utilize our network to help you get there. But college coaches want to hear from you. They want to make sure that it's something that you're committed to. They want to get to know you because they're making a 4-year commitment to coach you. So it's really important that they're hearing from you. And then the last one, I got an athletic scholarship as a Division III athlete. As I mentioned, Division III schools do not give out athletic aid. You can receive merit scholarship or need-based scholarship, but you're not going to be receiving any money to go play volleyball at the Division III level. So first things first, we're starting at the ground level here. You're going to need to create a recruiting email. This is mandatory, right? No college coach wants to see ilovepuppies@gmail.com, right? They want to see your name, your position, and your high school class year. Any information that's going to be important for them to identify you right away. An Instagram social media account is really optional, and it's becoming more popular, I think. We'll hear from Lily in a little bit about how social media can help you be recognized and help you get on coaches' radars, and how it can really be used as a tool. Number 2, you're going to want to update your university athlete profile. So you want to make sure that your information is up to date, it's accurate. If coaches come on there, they're going to be able to get your information easily. Thank you, Allie, for the screenshot. You're going to want to start filming and compiling highlights. So you can always film practice in addition to what coaches film. You can grab a tripod, film on your phone. This will help you put highlights out more frequently, right? As the process continues, you're going to be sending coaches highlights, fairly often, every couple of weeks. So you can always film yourself and compile extra highlights as well.
Hey, Kelsey, can I add one thing there? I really want to make sure that we understand kind of where our role is versus your role here as your coaches. So your coaches will be filming some of your practices and matches. However, the athletes that are doing the best in their college recruiting process right now are also filming on their own, because it's just better to have that backup film, or maybe you want to get a better angle if you're an outside hitter of that left antenna, and make sure that it's the best angle to see you as you play. So I wouldn't rely on the huddle film or your coach always to get that film for you, and make sure that you're also filming for yourself to make sure you have enough film. Or even if you come in for a court rental or a camp or things like that, just throw your phone up on a tripod. That's it. They're always in the gym.
Definitely. And then lastly, you're going to start researching your schools. This can be a little bit of a daunting task, just because your list should be about 30 to 40 schools initially, if you're looking to play volleyball in college. So, our suggestion is find some schools that you really like, think about what you want out of the experience, and then you'll expand it. You'll look at schools that are similar. You'll look at schools that also play in their conference. That typically will give you a larger variety of schools that play at the same level, probably have similar academic levels and things of that nature. But you're going to chip away at it. Your list is going to continue to grow. We always say you're going to want to cast a really wide net and have options. And you can always say no to options, but it's good to start really wide at the beginning of the process. And then as you progress, you'll narrow down what schools will best fit you. So some key materials you're going to put together in this recruiting process. We've talked a little bit about a highlight video, and Kat will go into this more in depthly. But this is likely going to be the first time a coach is evaluating you, probably the second and third and maybe the fourth time during COVID, until we hit live tournament play. So this is a great opportunity for you to make a great first impression. You're going to use Huddle, and as we mentioned, your own film, and you're going to cut clips and compile highlights. You're going to want to make sure that you're including information like your name, your jersey number, what position you play, maybe your high school, on the first slide of the highlight video. Your volleyball resume, you're going to compile all of your accolades and stats into one page, just a one-sheeter that coaches can reference when they're looking for some information about you. And you're going to want to include a picture of yourself as well. And then you're going to be drafting emails to coaches. We want to personalize this with information about the school. So that's definitely making sure that you have the right head coach's name, obviously the right school, the right mascot. Maybe you're going to highlight some things that you've noticed on their social media. Maybe you're going to watch some film and talk a little bit about that. So you're going to want to make sure that it's personalized and about the school. Be professional, proofread it. Have your parents proofread it, have Kat and myself proofread it. You can always send stuff to the recruiting email, and we're happy to take a look at it. This is an opportunity for you to start to show your personality, right? Talk about things that you're interested outside of volleyball, maybe some clubs that you're involved in, community service that you do, so that they can start to get to know you a little bit. And then you're always going to include your highlight video in these emails. And then that video will be updated over the course of a season. But you always want to include that in your emails to coaches. So I'll pass it over to Kat. She's going to go through a sample highlight video.
Awesome. Thanks, Kels. I just wanted to show, not quite yet, but in a second, we'll show about a minute of a highlight video and talk about some of the things that we really like about this one. This is from Carrie on our 17 Open team, who's a libero DS. And then I added a couple of the things that I kind of the common errors or issues that I see with highlight videos, because we usually go a couple rounds when I review videos. So if you want to try to hit play there, let's see if we can get this going. So right off the bat, we've got key info, position, number, class name. Super important. You guys see this title on the bottom left. Right away, the coach knows to look for the passer. This is all serve receive clips. So we don't need to see any highlights or shadows or arrows, because we're about to see 30 passing clips in a row. And it makes it really easy for the coach to evaluate Carrie on her passing technique and movement. One of my favorite things about this video is the tempo of the clips as well. They're fast, right? We see the serve, we see her reading the serve, moving to the serve. We see her going to cover the hitter, and then the play's over. We don't need to see the rest of it because we're just looking at serve receive. So think about this from a coach's perspective. After watching how far in, we're 40 seconds into the video, he or she has a pretty good idea of Carrie's passing. And as a libero, this is always going to be the skill that we would want to show first. Your best and most important skills are going to go first. We wouldn't want to open Carrie's libero video and see her hitting a bunch of balls, or open a setter video and it starts off with a bunch of digs. We want to see liberos passing and playing defense. We want to see hitters attacking or passing if they're an outside. We want to see setters setting, middles hitting and blocking. Doesn't mean you can't show more skills. Carrie's video, I think, is about 4 minutes long or so, and she will show defense as we're getting into here. She'll show serving. She'll show out of system setting when she has to take the second ball. So there are a variety of skills, but the majority, I think over half of the video, is going to be focused on the most important skills for her position. All right. What are the other things in here? So as you can see, we've already seen that her transitions from one section to the next are very clear. So we started with serve receive. We saw that title. We saw a bunch of serve receive, and then we saw defense. I sometimes see athletes in their YouTube descriptions even put the timestamp of, serving is going to be at 5 seconds, defense at 1:30. So if the coach wants to scroll through it, because I know that it's a reality that coaches might not watch your whole video. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people make in their video is not kind of starting with a bang and making sure that some of their best clips are first. Sometimes they're buried halfway through or at the end of the video, and the coach might not even get there. So make sure that in that first 30 seconds, you're really showing some impressive clips. So you can pause it now, but you guys can check out the rest on YouTube, and it's linked on our northeastbbc.com/recruiting page as well, along with a couple other examples for different positions. Their videos will be very different for different positions. The only thing I would add, let me run back here, if you can try to get most of your highlights from 3 to 4 matches or practices. Right now, we're not going to have match highlights. Probably you wouldn't have had them since high school or over the summer or last spring. So using 6-on-6 footage is from practice is totally fine. Even 6-on-3, 6-on-2, whatever you can get to show you playing on your team is totally fine. We even had some athletes sending in video of 2-on-2 or them training in a court rental and just saying to the coach, hey, this is the best I could do right now. And they're very understanding with COVID. They know that the rules are different in each state. They probably are not going to give someone a scholarship based on their video of doubles, but they will at least be able to see them play some volleyball and see that they're improving and training and having fun with it. The last one, this is a really important one. Leave out any really easy plays. So free ball passing. If you get a block that touched the tape and barely hit your hand, maybe a roll shot kill that only scored because the other team's defense wasn't very good. Make sure that the quality of the plays are good. And if there's bump sets, things like that aren't that impressive, just leave those out. They're going to assume that if you're a libero, you know how to pass a free ball. If you're a setter, you know how to bump set a ball. So we want to keep these plays, pretty high level. Oh, Juju, good question. How long should a highlight be? I think 2 to 5 minutes is my kind of guideline. And if you have season highlights, those could be 5 minutes. If you have a highlight from a tournament or from a match, that should probably be more like in the 2-minute range. I definitely think that keeping it shorter overall and more impactful is better. Like, always take your highlight video and just take the 5 worst clips out. And then that's your next draft of it, because usually there's always some stuff that can go, and we can help you with that too. You can always happy to review draft videos. All right, I'm going to kick it over to Lily Stevens, who's on our 17 teams, and she's going to talk about social media.
Okay, so I started my Instagram account back in August, and it's been super helpful for my recruiting. So like, just start with like the basics. Like username, your name and grad year is definitely the easiest, so recruiters can tell it's a volleyball account. Bio, I have my class, position, teams, both my club and my school team, and then I think I have my jersey numbers for both of those teams, and then I have height, and then I don't have this, but some other recruits do, just like something special about you. Like, I see some girls do like their vertical touch, if it's like really high, or if they got like an award, like first team all state or something like that. That's cool. I also have a link to my huddle, just like YouTube or Sports Recruits or anything that you use to like post most of your highlights. That's super important. And then I have just my profile photo is just a photo of me hitting. You can just have like a photo of you in your jersey or something. That like works great. Then you can just like start posting. Post like your most recent film from practice or games. Just like post all your skills. That's also super important. So I'm an outside. I usually I post all of my skills usually, but I have like, you can see I have like a highlight for setting. Like, I sometimes post like setting clips, even though that's like not necessarily my position. It just shows like how you can like to show all your skills, like how you can play everything. You can explore posting on stories, reels, and IGTV. That's all super important. Just, yeah, like explore everything, show your personality. That's also super important. Coaches want to see your personality. Like, show that you have fun in practice, and yeah, that's super important. Okay. Follow the programs on your list and the coaches. So you can search up the programs. That's super easy. They're usually really easy to find. And then finding the coaches is sometimes harder. Usually you can just search up their names in Instagram and find them. But sometimes they're harder to find. I usually, if I can't find them at first, then I go to the program's main account and see if they're tagged in any photos. If they're not, then I go to like the following and then click on it and then search their name again. Then you can usually find them there. But if not, then they don't have Instagram, and that's okay. And then if you start to get in contact with a program more, then, and they still don't follow you on Instagram, and you can see that they follow other recruits, then you can unfollow and refollow them, just like if they didn't see your follow at first.
Hey, Lily, can I jump in with one thing? I think that one thing I wanted to share. So Lily started her Instagram in August, as it's been under for about 6 months, and she's had a lot of success with this. And I know you guys saw in her in the screenshot and what she said, she's a 2024. So she's not able right now to get contacted by college coaches. That doesn't mean, however, that you can't be a recruit and someone that's on their radar. So she's been using Instagram and her highlights to push out video and get her video and clips in front of coaches. And this is a great way to do it without always having to email them. So if they are following her on Instagram, they'll see her story or they'll see her more recent posts. And it can save an email in a nice way to get, video out to a lot of coaches. They can't contact her, so they can't text or DM or email her, but they can get in touch with us. And that's something that they have been doing for some of our 2024 and 2023 athletes. So we will then kind of be the liaison and say, hey, this is a school that's interested. They reached out, they saw your film. And now, she knows that she's on their radar, which is really the goal, to get on their radar. Especially if you're looking at D1 schools, the goal is to get on their radar before the June 15th date that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can keep going.
I totally agree with that. Like, it's so much easier just to post on Instagram instead of having to write a whole email and send it back out again. It takes way less time, in my opinion. So that's definitely super important. And then if you're really if a program reaches out to you more and you're interested in them, then you can react with their content more, comment on their posts and maybe repost them to your story and like them. And you can also follow their rostered players or some of their commits and interact with their content. So that's also very important. How to get more exposure. So tag Northeast. They repost a lot of people's highlights all the time. Tag other volleyball accounts. That's also super important. Some accounts that I've tagged, Max Preps, Huddle Volleyball, Prep Volleyball, Game Time CT, Root and Report, Nerva, anything, even if they're probably not going to repost your videos, but if somebody's looking at their account and at their tagged videos, that's just a way you can get more exposure. Tag your teammates if they're in the videos. That's great. Use highlights in your profile to you can highlight stories so coaches can see right away you playing, so you don't have to post everything, but you can highlight the less important videos, you may say, and then just highlight them on your profile. Repost your posts on your stories. That's probably one of the most important, because if coaches are following you, then they're also following other recruits. So your post might not pop up on their feed. So hopefully then they will see your story and then click on your post and then hopefully watch it. So next, research. You can follow other recruits your age or in your class, recruits in the class above you. And then you can see which schools follow them, just see where you're at. That's really important. And also you can watch them play, if it's their volleyball account. Some people just don't, it's just their regular account. So, well, that's fine too. And you can also know where you stand by watching other recruits play. If certain universities follow them and don't follow you, that gives you a sense of where you stand in your class. And you can also watch players in the class above you and see their skill level when they were your age and what universities follow them. And then check your story views. So you can see, you can't do this with real posts, but you can see who views your stories. So if coaches are viewing your stories and not liking your posts, or they're just not viewing your stories at all, that can tell you maybe they don't use Instagram as much, they don't really use it at all, which is fine. It gives you a reason for them to maybe not be liking your posts or stuff like that. I think that's it. That's all I have.
Thanks, Lily.
Awesome.
I would follow up with a couple of other tips. I think it goes without saying that this is a recruiting tool and you'd want to keep it very volleyball related and professional. But one thing that Lily did, which I loved, is she posted like a day in the life of her nutrition. So she posted like her breakfast, her lunch, some of her snacks, how she was preparing for practice, things like that. And I think coaches love to see that. You know, if you're doing an online workout, if you're doing an AMP session, like take pictures of it, post them on your stories, post them on your accounts, like anything that's adding value to your, to you as a player and as a person is really going to add to your recruiting process. So I think coaches are interested in seeing what you're up to and seeing you working at your craft. And then one other thing I was just going to add was when you are emailing coaches, sometimes you can lose some content on what you're going to talk to them about, and following them on social media accounts and keeping up with what their program is doing is a really easy way for you to communicate with them and say, hey, I saw your team did a scavenger hunt on campus the other day. It looks awesome. Do you guys do a lot of team bonding activities together? Obviously that's just one example, but if you're keeping up with their social media accounts, you'll know what's going on in the program.
Kelsey, I'll also add that, as you guys can see, this takes a ton of time, and Lily's had a lot of success with this, but she's dedicating time to this every day, certainly every week. And I would say if you know that you're the type of person that's going to dive into this, and then by all means do it. If you are not into social media and you're not going to be keeping it updated, I would focus more on getting really good quality video through Huddle and through email. So this is definitely not a mandatory, but we're seeing that, I think, particularly with COVID and the lack of in-person recruiting, and I'm not sure, how college camps are going to work this summer. So this is one of the best ways for coaches to be able to see you, in addition to, YouTube and Huddle videos that will be sent via email. And I think it also, the other thing that I've been really impressed with is like how Lily has used this to get a good awareness of where she needs to get to. So, while still being focused on getting better every day in the gym, also, not being oblivious to the idea that there are other recruits. And, she's trying to look at a certain school, looking at their committed recruits from past years and seeing what their video was like at her age, and, what things that she might need to get better at. I think a lot of people go through this recruiting process with a lot of like tunnel vision and a lot of self-awareness, but not necessarily looking outside at, the 400,000 other athletes that are potential recruits as well. And I think it can be really motivating to see, the competition a little bit, and know, when you email a school that you are, close to the level of their other recruits. I think that's an important thing to be aware of. That's all, Kelsey. You can go ahead.
Here's a very general overview of a timeline for recruiting. I just want to note before we even dive into it that our 18s last year who have committed to go on and play in college, they didn't start their recruiting process until their junior or senior year. So if you are a sophomore or a junior jumping into this process, if you're a senior jumping into this process, you're not crazy behind. It is doable. It just might require a little bit more work at this point. So your freshman year, you're getting better at volleyball. You want to focus on academics and really just begin to think about what you want out of the college experience. Do you want to go away? Do you want a city experience? Do you want a school in the mountains? Do you want a big school? Do you want a Division III experience? Do you want to shoot for that D1 experience? You're just thinking about what you might want out of your college experience. Your sophomore year, you're starting to create a broad list. Maybe you're thinking about majors that you're interested in. You're looking more at location. You're looking more at the type of school you want. You're putting together a highlight video and continuously editing that video. You're going to attend some camps at schools of interest maybe during the summer. And then you're going to start to really build relationships with coaches through those emails, through social media, so that you're on their radar. Your junior year, you're going to prep and take your SATs and your ACTs. You're going to start narrowing down your search a little bit. At this point, you're communicating with coaches fairly often, right? More often than your sophomore year and certainly your freshman year. And at this point, with COVID, you might set up some visits, maybe FaceTime or Skype calls. We're going to do some tours of campuses virtually, and hopefully, once you're able to go on campus and whatnot, you'll be able to have more interaction with the campus and the coaching staff itself. And then your senior year, for Division I and Division II years, you're going to be signing an NLI on November 11th. At that point, you already know you're going to that school. This is just a formal commitment that you're making to attend the school. In Division III, they're making decisions a little bit later in fall and early winter. So typically, Division I and Division II schools, they probably know who they're going to bring on during their junior year, and it's not official until their senior year. Division III, it's way later, right? It's not until the fall or early winter of your senior year. So it's okay to start the process a little bit later than your freshman year, obviously. And as you can see, it kind of depends on the division that you're looking to play at. Some important dates. We've talked a lot about June 15th. This is June 15th after your sophomore year. This is, again, where back and forth contact is allowed between Division I and II schools, where coaches are allowed to then have communication with you. As Kat had mentioned, coaches will reach out to us and say, hey, I'm interested in so-and-so, and we can funnel some of that information through you. But this is the official date where, open communication is allowed. August 1, after your sophomore year, you're allowed to take official and unofficial visits. This is for Division I and II specifically. Division III, you're allowed to talk to coaches at any point in time, really, and you're allowed to go to campus and see them at any point in time as well. But official and unofficial visits. So an official visit would be when you go to campus. Typically, all your costs are covered. So the program can pay for a flight. They could pay for a train ticket. They could pay for your meals. They might take you to a basketball game. They're really hosting you. You're staying with the team, and it's an official visit. You're allowed 5 of these at a Division I school during your recruiting process. An unofficial visit, you could have unlimited amounts of unofficial visits. This is where you're paying for your trip at your cost. You can meet with coaches. You can have lunch with coaches. You could still go to a basketball game with them, things of that nature, but they can't pay for anything for you. And then November 11th of your senior year, you're allowed to sign that national letter of intent. Typically, it really focuses on Division I and II schools where you're receiving athletic aid. And that's a formal commitment to play for that program. So our one-on-one meetings and how we can really help and guide you through this process is through these one-on-one meetings. So our goal through these meetings is to provide a clear path forward for you and to set up, the communication between us, your coaches, the directors, to help you achieve whatever goal it is that you have in mind. These meetings are scheduled using Calendly. We'll show you where to find them on the website. The screenshot to the right is what it will look like. You can select any of these 4 meetings. The same availability will come up. Really, this just gives us an idea of what some of your goals are to get out of the meeting. Based on what you select, it's super helpful, and we get the most out of the meeting, and you get the most out of the meeting if you send some of the information ahead of time. So you can send it to the recruiting email. If you have a college list, send that over to us. If you have a highlight video that you want us to review and we want to talk about it, obviously it's helpful if we can review it ahead of time. Things like that. So any information that you have after you schedule this meeting is super helpful to us. This can include parents and athletes, or just the athletes, that's fine as well. And it's held virtually on Google Meet with Kat and myself. And within a few days after the meeting, you'll receive another email from me just with some notes and like a to-do list with what the next steps are. This just helps you stay organized. It helps us stay organized and kind of intact with where you are in your process. So here is a screen grab of the website. Hopefully you've been to this recruiting portion of the website. It includes our college recruiting packet that we've referenced. The book a meeting with Kelsey and Cat is there. All of our information, contact info. Here's where the information gets pretty dense. There's a ton of resources and templates for you to utilize, different facts about the NCAA and the Eligibility Center, things that we didn't necessarily get to cover today. Tons of information here with highlight videos, email templates that you can send to coaches. There's just a ton of information. Here's our recruiting packet. This, again, has a variety of information. It's going to go even more in depth than we were able to go into today. It includes a lot of the information that we went into, but it goes over those important terms that we went over today, some of the rules from the NCAA, things like that. So this is probably our biggest resource. We ask that you review this recruiting packet and review some of the information on this website before setting up our one-on-one. You're going to get the most out of it if you have done some of this research on your own and come to us prepared with questions and really some ideas that you have in mind that you need help with. Kat, do you have anything to add to that?
With the college recruiting packet, we just recently added some new things to it, and we're going to be adding some of those social media tips by the end of the week. So we'll have a new version of it with a couple more pages. Trying to keep it under 20. But there is a lot of information, as you guys can see. And the more research that you guys do, again, the more you'll be able to get out of, our help and these meetings that we can set up. Again, this process is a lot of work, hopefully for you guys on this. This is motivating. For some of you, it might be terrifying, and that is okay. The goal for us is just to share the information that we have, the resources that we have, and to understand the realities of the process. It's a very exciting process, but it's also very grueling and can be full of some rejection as well. So we want to make sure that you guys know what you're getting into and can really attack it with kind of the motivation that you will need. It's almost like taking another class if you're really going to dive into this in your sophomore and junior year. So. But the outcome is worth it if you really do want to play in college. Obviously, that's a huge part of your college experience, and I think it's absolutely worth the time if that's the goal that you have.
This is kind of a specific question, but I have NCSA. Should I be emailing coaches through that, or through like regular Gmail?
I have heard from coaches that, from multiple coaches actually, that they much prefer to get emails that are from your personal Gmail. Some of the recruiting services, I think like Sports Recruits is one that it doesn't look like a template when it goes to them. It actually says from your Gmail address. But I know a lot of coaches will say that they will delete emails that say, so-and-so has contacted you through X, Y, and Z platform. So I think that service can be a decent way to get connected with coaches, but then I would very quickly take it off of that and work with them over email, over the phone to make it more personal. And I don't think that you necessarily need a service unless it's, that it's really going to help you keep your list organized, that you're going to get that out of it. I know a lot of people who've gotten recruited without those services. I know that some coaches are a little bit biased against them. That's just something to keep in mind. What other questions do you guys have? It could be about any of the content that we talked about or anything else related to college volleyball or college recruiting.
I had a quick question about how many colleges you should be contacting, because I've been doing some research with my college counselor about different schools, and the major that I want to do is kind of specific. So a lot of schools don't necessarily have it or only have it for a graduate program or something. So if your net is kind of more narrow, is that still okay, or what do you think about that?
So that's a great question. I generally like to tell people to cast a wider net. I think the more kind of hooks you throw out, the more bites you get, and that's a big part of building momentum. And you can reach out to schools that you're not necessarily super serious about. That's one of the biggest questions I get. I don't know if I should reach out. I'm not that interested and I'm not sure. And I just always say, go ahead, why not? Especially if they're in a conference with another school that you're looking at. So if you are looking at a school that has a specific major and that's really your target school or a couple of those target schools, reach out to other schools in their conference so that, you can then go back to that coach and say, hey, XYZ coach from your conference is interested. And that helps create like momentum. This is a lot of it's about marketing yourself and creating demand around yourself. And so that's why, even if that your focus is pretty narrow, you can still cast a little bit of a broader net to get some interest, get some momentum, and then use that a little bit as leverage. I think it can help in your process because your list will be narrower than everyone else's. So that's going to probably make the decision making a little bit easier for you.
Thank you.
Miranda has a question about what if you'd like to play abroad? That's a great question. Playing abroad in terms of going to university abroad, do you mind sharing, Miranda, is it general abroad or do you have a certain place in mind?
I mean, I'd want to go somewhere in like Europe, but like just like abroad in general could also work too.
Okay. So if you're looking at going to college abroad, we had, I know that some athletes have gone to go play in the UK or in like Scotland. The difference is that like the NCAA is completely unique to the US. The system that we have, the divisions, that is an American thing. People from other countries don't fully get it. And it's a totally different world when you go to different countries. So the expectation of you as an athlete, the seriousness, the financial commitment is going to be totally different. So I would start with the schools that you're interested in first, and then look to see if they have an athletic program, if they have volleyball. Some schools do, some schools don't. But like I know the UK has the Bucks University League. I actually played in it when I went to get my master's because they don't have rules about NCAA eligibility, so you can play even after you've used your eligibility. So that's a route that some people go after college. It is going to be more challenging because the communication is going to be on a different timeline. The requirements for applying are totally different, but it's definitely doable. Just going to probably take a little bit more research.
Okay, thank you.
Just to jump in, Miranda, if you were interested in traveling abroad and doing like a study abroad semester, I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but I have seen student athletes who are committed to teams and on the team study abroad in their off season. So at the Division III level, your spring semester in terms of your volleyball requirements is a lot less strenuous. So some student athletes will go away and study abroad for their off season. I wouldn't say it's common, but you are able to. I would say at the Division I and II level, it almost never happens because in your off season, you still have a lot of commitments in the gym, in the strength and conditioning room, team meetings, and things like that. So if you were looking to just study abroad generally and not necessarily play abroad, I think that's an opportunity that more Division III athletes get to take advantage of.
Thank you.
Allie had a good question in the chat too, asking, since we're in a dead period right now, which means no in-person recruiting is happening. And obviously we haven't played matches in a little while, though that's going to change soon. So you don't have any new film. How should you email coaches or what should you say to create conversation? So this is where I think you got to get creative. So, you've done some lessons and some small group training, which you have some film of on Huddle. You played in the 2v2 tournament yesterday, right? That's up on Sportfy, which can be screen recorded. I'm pretty certain you could get 30 seconds to a minute of highlights of you passing, attacking, serving. So you just have to kind of make something up in terms of, hey, here's me playing, even if it's not traditional 6-on-6 of you wearing a jersey. Find a way to film yourself playing, make a video. It could be 30 seconds. Hey, here's, me playing doubles in the grass with my friends. And that's totally acceptable.
Any other questions? I'll just add in there. Oops,
sorry.
I
was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
I kind of had like a similar question. It was kind of answered, but I don't know if anyone else was like thinking the same thing, but I don't know, at least for me, I feel like with like high school film and stuff. Like I wanted more recent film just because I feel like, you know, like improvement and stuff. So I was just like making sure that it was like acceptable and okay to use like 2v2 stuff. But as you guys said, that's like totally fine, right? Especially because of what we're dealing with right now.
Definitely. And as you progress through the recruiting process, you're probably going to be sending out new film every couple of weeks. So at this point, I think it's kind of up in the air because of COVID. If you have great highlight videos from your high school ball, I think you can use it, but I think you should be trying to get some new stuff in the gym. You know, it also looks good that coaches see that you're finding a way to play, you're in the gym, you're getting creative, right? You want to get better, you're training. So you are doing 2v2 stuff, or you're getting outside and, you know, you're doing different, you know, training methods just to kind of find a way, right? Like it shows that you're a gritty athlete, you're training, you're dedicated to the process. So it's definitely not a bad thing to highlight some of your one-on-one sessions or like the 2v2 tournament and things like that. Where do we find emails for coaches, especially if they're not on the website? They should be located on the website. My best suggestion, let's say you're looking for Fairfield University, I would go onto their, go onto Google and just type in Fairfield University Athletics staff directory. And that should give you a huge listing of everybody in the athletics department. You should be able to find their emails there. Yep. All good questions. Going back to something we didn't touch on, but going back to your question, Allie, about how do you create conversation, even if you're, you know, sending out a 30-second clip of your 2v2, you know, something really good to show value and that you're really interested in the school is to watch film on them and maybe pick a player that you really enjoy or that you aspire to play like, or maybe a style of play, or a play that they're running in the game, just anything to really highlight that you were watching film and you saw them play against this team or you saw them play against that team, just to show that you're really invested, and it can help create some conversation because it is kind of hard to stay in contact right now without a ton of tournament play.
Another thing I'll add that we sort of mentioned, but we can go in a little more detail. So right now, with coaches not being able to watch in person, although still the majority of recruiting is happening over video and email right now. So in-person recruiting tends to be kind of like the last step. Maybe someone wants to see you play live in practice or a game before, you know, really cementing you on their list or making an offer. That's kind of how I view the in-person recruiting. But keep in mind that like we are able to talk to college coaches on your behalf. And in addition to, you know, the first thing we said, and I kind of want to close with it, is keep getting better and working hard in the gym if you want to create more opportunities for yourself down the road. Number one, you're going to get better, which is going to open more doors for you. Number two, when coaches call us and ask us, how is Kelsey's work ethic? You know, how does she respond to a bad day of practice? And these are real questions that we get. And we're always going to put your best foot forward, but we're also going to be very honest because it's our reputation on the line. And we have a lot of relationships with college coaches that we want to preserve. And we want to make sure that it's a good fit. We don't want you to go to a school where, you know, it's not going to be a good fit based on the commitment level. So really focus on continuing to get better. And the doors will open for you if you put in the work and put in the time. And we can then help advocate for you, and we will advocate for you more, and you'll get more out of us in this process. The more work that you put in, the more effort that you put in. That's one of the number one things I want to take away. Diane said her scouts allowed to come to games in the future this season. Right now, the dead period is going through April 15th, which means no in-person recruiting will happen before then. However, there are ways for them to see you, like we talked about, sharing practice video. We have this Sporfy live stream feed, which you can either send to a coach and say, hey, my practice is going to be at 7:30 if you want to log in, or you can send them a link and they can look at it later. You know, if you tell them the date and time, what court you were on, they can log in and watch your practice, which is a great way for them to see, what you're like in the practice gym, since they're going to spend 4 years with you. It's really important. So we think that after April 15th, there may be some in-person recruiting, but I would really focus on getting in front of the coaches before then, because coaches generally only come to watch recruits that are already on their list. So, unless they're coming to watch someone else on your court and you're really standing out, or you're 6'5", which I don't think is anyone on this call right now, they're probably not going to notice you out of the blue. We are from a state that's pretty underdeveloped in terms of volleyball. We need to be real about that and know that it's our job as athletes to get in front of the coaches, not the other way around. Yeah, Tatum, I think we're about an inch away. Any other questions? Anyone? Feel free to just unmute yourself. Parents, by the way, you can ask questions too. We fully expect you to be involved in this process. A lot of the work will fall on the athletes, but we know that we have a lot of really supportive parents here as well. Oh, Rocco, there you go. Okay, we do have 165 athlete on the phone. Yes, that does help. It's not the only thing, but it does help you stand out for sure. At the end of the day, you got to be a good volleyball player. I think that's it. Any last call for questions? You guys can always DM us. You can email Kelsey. You can set up a meeting. I really thank you for taking the time to do this. This is a full hour on Thursday night. I know you guys have practice, you have homework, you got family dinner. So we really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Hopefully you learned something new and got motivated to get started, or maybe realize this is not for you, and that is totally okay too. Or if you're not sure yet, it's always okay to just explore and see what happens. Well, I think that we can probably let everyone go and enjoy their night.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.